I'm really excited for this keynote and for our speaker. Let me just give you a few little points about who's going to be joining us now. He's a pioneering media artist, and I'd like to ask for your attention once more. A pioneering media artist, a musician, a researcher who explores the boundaries between robotics, sound, and algorithmic creativity. He has a background in classical music and a diploma in electrical engineering. He bridges the worlds of scientific research and avant-garde sound design, and his instruments are indeed robots. They're not samplers or synthesizers, but mechanical systems physically producing sound, making his approach to electronic music uniquely tangible, performative, and deeply human. Everyone, please help me in warmly introducing Moritz Simon Geist.
Thank you. Hi, it's super cool to be here, and I'm just going to start with the presentation because I only have half an hour and I'm going to need all of that time. And maybe this presentation is working because I need my slides. Hi slides. Okay, I can already introduce myself as I was already introduced. I'm a robotic artist. That means that I'm making music with robots, small robots, big robots, small machines, mechanical systems that are actually playing all the sounds. And so my research has mostly about the automation of music with physical machines. At this point, I would really like to show some slides, and because it's also a little bit the talk. Could you put up those slides? Oh, there we go. Oops. Wonderful, and maybe also here. So some of our works include systems like these, smaller machines or only objects that are making sounds. And we have an Instagram page where we display everything, but my probably first installation I did was this big MR808. Maybe some of you have seen it. It's from 2012, so well aged. And we replaced most of the sounds from the original 808 with small sound actuators, like a small drum, which is then hit by a motor and stuff. While doing all these machineries and traveling on the world with them, and carrying everything around, I realized that me as a human, I'm mostly the most fragile part in this whole organization. And I was thinking, how would it be if we eradicate the human factor altogether? And if those robots could be on stage on their own, actually. So, but apart from this more organizational issue, there's also like another question that arises. You had like the panel talk here before. Creation of art, like the composing and everything, is already deeply influenced by AI, by algorithms. And so I'm asking if also the performative aspects, like the performers on stage, the actual humans, will at some point be replaced by machines or by robots. It's right now a very speculative question, but still a very important one, because I, as an artist, want to know at the first moment when this is a threat or a possibility, from which perspective you see it, for us. And the question is, what happens if we replace all humans on stage with robots? So in this talk, I'm gonna talk a little bit about what is in performance actually. What is a performance? Which ingredients do we need for a non-human art performance? What is the uncanny valley? Who of you have heard about the uncanny valley? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, nearly the half, so it's a good argument for me to talk a little bit about that and give you some examples, of course. So you want to replace all humans on stage with robots, right? A few things to consider. I brought you 2 videos. I hope the sound works. And for the first one, we will watch it. It's about 30 seconds. And I would ask you to just observe where your eyes look and how your attention is basically watching this video. Okay, I'm going to stop it here. That is a piece Spiegel by Spiegel from Arvo Pärt, and we have the same performance from human composers, from human musicians. And again, I would like to ask you to actually see what's going on. So I'm going to stop it here because I think you got the point. When we compare robotic performances to human performances, we have to observe how these 2 performances play with our attention, how you can actually transfer emotions from a system on stage, be it a human system or an automated system. And I don't know how you perceive these 2 performances, but me, for the human performance, let's say, I had a very much more emotional connection to what's going on. I looked at the closed eyes of the performer, of the cellist, and for the robotic performance, musically, it was kind of very similar, but from the attention, it was very different. I don't know how you perceived it, but for me, it was like this. And technically, it's all there, but the robotic performance is lacking some kind of compassion still. So when we talk about performance, what does it actually mean? I did a lot of research in the last 2 years about the theory of the performances. I don't want to get into the scientific details too much, but as a rule, you can say a good performance on stage is a combination of 2 things, an agency and skill. Agency is basically the autonomy and the autonomous actions that you are doing on stage together with the instrument or together with another performer. And the skill is how you do these actions. And the lacking presence, the embodiment of the machines often make it difficult for these agencies to actually come to play a lot. Concerning the skill, concerning the agency, I have another example for you, which I recorded just a few weeks ago. And that is with a robot called Sophia. Actually, Jovanka, who is part of this team, is also here on the conference. It's a very compelling project, and I'm just going to play you the video right now.
Sophia, shall we do a Kraftwerk-inspired electro track together?
Crafting an electro track with a humanoid robot. Count me in.
And do you know how to play the Farrelly?
Ah, you mean Adele. My robotic arms might give it a shot, but don't expect a concert-level performance.
I think it could be nice. I mean, you don't have to grab something. I understood that you are not like extremely strong yet. And so maybe it's good because you're controlling the antenna with your hands.
True, my strength isn't exactly help-like, but waving my hand around an antenna sounds like a perfect fit for my robotic flair. Let's make some alien music magic.
So concerning the agency of a human and a performer, you all know ChatGPT, for example, it has to be real time. You have to actually, in real time, discuss with a system, be it musically or be it in words, what's going on stage. It could be like a jam session, let's say, or like a musical interplay. And with spoken words, of course, it's more like a discussion. I mean, I don't know how many of you have used the voice features of ChatGPT, but this is very good already. I mean, this is nearly real time and you're nearly like talking to an actual person. So when you compare this to a musical context, you could imagine something where you are playing together with a musical system in real time, and the musical system, the physical and the compositional part are reacting to what the musician is actually doing and playing on stage. That would be kind of the final goal of the interplay. The skill is what the technical abilities of the performers on stage has. And when we look back at the small examples I showed you, I think non-human performers are already pretty good. Here you see this video I showed you from Frederick Grahn, is the artist called. He basically took these industrial 6X robots and made a pre-programmed composition where it can play the piece Spiegel by Spiegel on the cello, and technically it's very good. It's like the technical abilities of the system is already pretty good, but the interpretive skills of these systems are basically non-existent because it's the playing of like a pre-programmed pattern. So I would argue right now that it's at a certain level where the technical skill ability is pretty high, but the interpretive skill level is already not so much existent. In order for performance to be perceived as good by an audience, you have to have an agency and a skill which is convincing to the public. And we are actually on track for achieving this in a few years, I guess, but we are not there yet. The next thing that is very crucial for this whole operation is the so-called uncanny valley. I already asked you how many of you know about this. And the uncanny valley is a theorem which describes something very crucial. It's a concept by Masaharu Omori, a Japanese researcher from the 1970s. And it describes the discomfort from almost but not quite like lifelike humanoid forms. That's very abstract so far, but it influences robotics, CGI, animation, art design, AI, and also avatars, another big part in this whole scenario. And let's put it like this. You have a machine and it has some kind of form. I will give you a few examples in just a little bit. But you would think the more this machine resembles a human, the more affinity, the more emotional bond you have towards this machine. So if there's only like one arm, like the robot arm from the cello player, you don't have like a very high emotional arm. You don't ask like, oh, how is it feeling? How's this machine feeling? But the more human-like these machines get, the more they resemble an actual human with like a head. You would expect that the graph looks like this. You have the affinity level and you have the human likeness, and you would think, okay, like the more it resembles a human, here is like a full-blown automated human, the more affinity I have for this. But actually what Masaharu Omori proposed is that it's not like that. You have a steep dip here when it's nearly approaching these kind of 100%, and you feel a big discomfort towards systems that nearly look human, but not quite, because the human brain is really trained on perceiving a lot of these human factors like eye movements and such. Your brain is basically struggling to decide, is this human or not, and is having like a big problem with that. One example, for example, is this Kismet robot. It's from maybe like 10 or 12 years ago. It looks super eerie actually and a little bit frightening. Then you have all the puppets, all these crazy scenarios. It looks more like from a horror film or a zombie movie. In my perspective, this is Cyborg from Tom Rolfe. I think it's displayed in Vienna. But you would also find it in AI-generated content. It's getting less and less, but I found out, for example, that there is a trend on TikTok where people would replicate this and make makeups so they have like this kind of uncanny valley look. And there's like heaps of videos on TikTok on how to look very uncanny. I have some more examples for you if you're really interested in this, because there is, of course, when you look at the skill and the agency scenarios, you have very like simple animatronic systems, which you would find already like 30 to 40 years ago in amusement parks and traditional automatons. Then you have already some projects which play on this pretty good. For example, Hatsune Miku. I don't know if anybody of you knows about this project. Does anybody of you know Hatsune Miku? Yeah, it's pretty nice Japanese singer from maybe 15 years ago already, an avatar, basically. Gorillas had also like these avatars, of course. The other avatar performance or event, which you might know from maybe 4 years ago. I personally haven't seen it, but it's supposed to be very good. On the other hand, it doesn't have any agency. It doesn't have any reactions. It's a pre-programmed film, basically, in a 3D environment. And so you have these. You had like this Tupac avatar, very famous appearance at the Coachella 2018, I guess, where they revived Tupac as an avatar and put him into the world again to perform there. I mean, he's dead, obviously, so that was an avatar. And then you have some more experimental projects like the Boston Dynamics Spot, like this small dog which is running around, for example, or a very influential art project from Jean-Philippe Demet, the Tiller Girls. This is probably already 20 years ago, and he really worked on this case a lot. Compressor had another band, and I also did one project here, Don't Look at Me, and Shimon the Robot, self-playing vibraphone robot. So can we already replace our human performers on stage with robots? I would argue not yet, because we have missing agency and autonomous action on stage. We have human labor that is still so cheap that it doesn't make sense to put up a robot which costs like 150,000 euros if you can pay just a random piano player who takes only like $25 an hour. And the creative aspects of art might also never be automated, because the whole pop culture, of course, is not only about the performance on stage, but also about everything around, like the appearance on Instagram, like the meeting with the fans and stuff. It's a very, very important and interesting topic to watch, but there are still some problems to be solved or some hurdles to overgo until this could be done. Later on, we can have a small discussion if you like. And I want to end with a small video of mine, which is also making music with non-human actuators and non-human agents on stage. And here, Popcorn is the main actor. Thanks for listening. I think we still have some time left for a Q&A session if you have any questions. I don't know if there's a microphone for the audience, but you can just like shout very loud.
Yeah, could you talk a bit about what might interest people to go see a performance of robots and how that changes the dynamic or relationship between artist and audience?
Yeah, so the question was why people would actually want to see a robotic or like a machined performance, and also how this would change the connection between the audience and the people on stage, or like the agents on stage. So maybe 2 months ago, I did a poll on Instagram how many people are using ChatGPT as a therapist or for therapeutic uses. And to my surprise, about 40% of the people who said they use ChatGPT also used it for therapeutic uses. So I would argue that having a machine in front of the other person is inherently not a big problem for the most people if they feel like an emotional connection to them. So a lot of people ask ChatGPT, for example, for live advice, because it's very easy to access. It's always there. They can also ask like very small kind of questions. We had like lengthy discussions then on Instagram. So if you apply this kind of very singular experiment to the theory that I laid out, I would argue that once you have a certain threshold where the emotions of the robots become pretty compelling and they are autonomous, they can basically transfer these emotions, people actually are not drawn away by this. I would argue that a lot of people actually would see this because, for example, it might be cheaper, it might be accessible, because maybe at some point there is a robotic avatar band which is touring the world on many places at the same time. So you would have one in in American region and one in Asia, one in the African continent. And so it would be basically the same principle as the Blumen Group did, but with robots. And I would argue that if this is compelling enough, people really would like to see this. But you have to have a story, you have to have the content, the music, and etc., etc. But yeah, I would say it could happen. As another question. Yeah, so the question would be what the spectrum basically between an art installation and full-blown pop music performance is. And I would argue it's a spectrum. I mean, out of my mind, I guess there were also some influences. I mean, there's like heaps of influences from the actual art performances into pop culture. Of course, I mean, like it's an ongoing bond. And when you look at the music, of course, like the more like projects that are seated more in the art world are probably not so much focused on pop music first of all. I mean, like if there's a band, for example, Compressor Head, they are playing only AC/DC cover songs, and this is a band only made of robots. So it's a robotic drummer, it's a robotic guitarist with 72 fingers. And so people like it because they know the songs. They have like this referential idea of the AC/DC songs that they are playing. And so I think if this overlap is there, people will basically go there even if they are not singularly interested in the artistic value of this project, but more in the performative pop. All right. I think I'm just in time. 3 minutes left. Cool. Okay, I have nothing more to say. If you want to talk on, I'm here for the rest of the day. And I thank you very much for your attention.